All right, everybody, what's up? Welcome into Best on the Board here at The Athletic. It is Monday, December 6th. Monday is look ahead day in the NFL and a little bit of NBA talk coming up later with Melas from No Dunks. But we start things off, Michael Beller and Andrew DeWitt taking a look ahead to Week 14 early lines in the NFL. DeWitt, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing great. Another awesome week of NFL picks. In my straight up pick'em league, I would have gone perfect if the freaking Lions didn't complete that pass at the last second. So I have a big decision tonight. I have to go Bills or Patriots for way too much money. So I'm currently debating that in my head. Last week I picked Patriots +3, so I'm kind of leaning that direction, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So,
and is this something where you get to change your pick? Like, do you know what everyone else has picked?
You don't know until the last game. So like it locks at game time. So I could go either Bills or Patriots, and I have the lead, so I'll at least default down to the tiebreaker, even if my team loses. So I'm in solo first place. So
very nice. Good luck on that, whatever you end up going with. In the show from last week, you are 0-1. I am at 1-0. You were you hit the bow ideal pick of what we're looking for on these Monday Best on the Board episodes, in that you jumped on Washington when they were 2.5-point underdogs, and it just came through perfectly. So a great pick for you. I'm sitting at the 1-0 also after my pick from a week ago. We were both waiting on Bills and Patriots. So that's where our second pick comes in, and we'll see that. That was when we were actually on opposite sides, you with the Patriots and me with the Bills. So we'll see where that comes in to round out our records after week 13. But going into it, you're at 8-9. I'm at 9-14. We're going to keep those in mind and look ahead now to week 14 early lines. And this is an interesting slate to it. We actually found a little bit of agreement in our picks. We'll save those for pick number 2 because you like my pick a little bit. I like your pick a little bit. But let's go down a different road here for our first picks. We're going to start with you, and we're going to start with the game everyone is excited for in Week 14. Jaguars and Titans. Titans 10.5-point favorites in this game at home over at BetMGM, presenting sponsor of the Athletics Best on the Board. What do you like for this game?
I mean, I'm just on the Jaguars here, and this is kind of looking back at last week. So the Jaguars went into Los Angeles, cross-country road trip, and they were 14-point underdogs. And now they're going to Tennessee. And when we look at the Titans and the Rams, like I don't even think those teams are on the same level at all. I think the Rams are one of the better teams still after they kind of figured things out. They had that slump, but I think they're going in the right direction. Stafford is like really banged up, but we'll throw that out the way. And I think that, I just think the Jags are a little bit better than 10.5, and the Titans are so banged up still. Ryan Tannehill has no weapons on offense. Donta Foreman, Dez Fitzpatrick, Chester Rogers. That's who's number 1 on the depth chart right now. I mean, it's just a really poorly put together football team right now. And that's just because of the injuries they've had. They probably had the worst luck in the NFL, or top 5 in the injury luck category. So you can probably still get this at +11 if you shop around a little bit. I've seen the number moving back. It definitely opened at +11 last night when I saw it. I jumped on it, bet that at BetMGM, and now it's moved to 10.5. There's still some 11s sitting out there at different shops, and I just think, when is the Jaguars have to put a good game together at some point, right?
Do they?
I don't know. I did watch a lot of that Rams Jaguars game last night, and Trevor Lawrence, like, he's just really concerning to me, like how bad he looks. He's like Peyton Manning bad first year right now. So and it's kind of
turned out okay for Peyton.
Yeah, it really did turn out okay, but it's kind of concerning as all these other quarterbacks are doing okay. Mac Jones is having a great season. So I'm concerned about it, but I think this line is just a little too big for what the Titans have on offense right now. So I'm kind of hoping it's an ugly game. Maybe the Titans get a lead, and then the Jaguars are able to come back and backdoor cover the spread. It's an ugly game, and got to make it interesting somehow, right?
I think your if-then logic makes sense. If the Jaguars were just 13.5, 14-point underdogs against the Rams, then they should be something bigger than that against the Titans, and they certainly should be not 3 points less. I mean, all that definitely makes it makes sense. I think you're on the right track there. I just can't trust the Jaguars. I mean, this team is terrible, and they look the part of a god-awful football team in every single sense of the word. And the defense has been improved to a certain point, and you would think that this Titans matchup would be one that they could take advantage of if the improved defense they showed, most notably in their 9-6 win over the Bills, is something close to for real. But man, this offense is bad. And you want to talk about a team without any weapons. I mean, they can't get anything going. And Urban Meyer doesn't want to fully commit to James Robinson every single week after the fumbles. Like, this is an offense that, I mean, they could have trouble getting to 10 points in this game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that either. It's stinky. Don't get me wrong. I'm mostly just leaning on looking at the power rankings of the teams and the spreads the last couple of weeks and where they're at. And I think that's just kind of why I'm leaning on this number. And it's already moved in my direction, so hopefully maybe it'll move another half point. But it's hard. It's stinky, man. We're just playing the market numbers at this point.
We're just playing the market numbers. That is absolutely true, and that is part of the reason why I like my first pick of Packers and Bears. 12.5 points. That's a big number to lay early in the week. We are always looking for things that we think are going to go in that direction. So if I'm backing the Packers plus 12.5, part of the reason I'm doing that on a Monday is because I should at least think that this is going to go to 13, to 13.5, and maybe even to that magic number of 14. And ultimately, DeWitt, I do think it gets there. And that's why I'm comfortable betting such a big number, laying such a big number this early in the week. Packers coming off a bye, playing this game at home, Sunday Night Football against, frankly, just a bad Bears team. Not like an embarrassing team, not a team that goes out there and can't do anything. And there's no shame in, getting run off your own field by the Arizona Cardinals like the Bears did in Week 13. Cardinals are the best record in the NFL. Like, that's, there's no shame. Like, some teams are just bad. That's what the Bears are. They're not an embarrassing team. They're not the Jaguars or the Jets or the Texans, but they're just barely ahead of those teams. And the Packers really should just take care of business. We cannot underestimate just how important all these games are going down to the wire for these top-level NFC teams. And I would say especially the Packers, because they have that head-to-head win over the Cardinals. If those two teams end the season tied, it's the Packers who get the 1-seed home field advantage and the bye in the NFC, not the Cardinals. So every single game is one where the Packers need to show up and show out. And a game against the Bears at home, this really should be one that they win comfortably. And just as importantly, I see this game getting up to 14. I really do see it getting to that 2-touchdown threshold. So I want to get it now while I can still win my bet by backing the Packers if they do end up winning this game by 2 touchdowns, which I expect them to do.
Are you at all concerned with Aaron Rodgers, like injury and how he's looked the bye obviously helps. The bye always helps with injuries no matter what. Are you concerned like how much that toe injury, they even talked about surgery, potentially during the bye week. Are you concerned about Aaron Rodgers and how much it would change if, somehow he's not healthy and, he doesn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah. He's not going to practice probably either day. So
he really hasn't looked any worse for wear with that toe injury over the 2 games that we've known about it from, right? There is a loss mixed in there. It's just 1-1 in those 2 games, but Packers put up 31 points in the loss, and it certainly was not Aaron Rodgers' fault that they ended up losing that game to the Vikings. So, I mean, I'd be lying if I said it were totally a non-concern. Obviously, I would rather Aaron Rodgers be absolutely 100% himself. But that said, I still feel very comfortable with where this number comes in. The Packers are just every facet of the game so much better than what the Bears can bring to the table right now. A team that also offensively really doesn't have a whole lot going for itself. Expect Justin Fields back in this game, but that's not even an objective good based on where he and Andy Dalton have been this season. So I like the Packers quite a bit in this spot. Feel comfortable with the 12.5 all this early in the week. Our next 2 picks to it, as I said, ones that we both support one another's picks. I very much considered going Bengals minus 1.5 against the 49ers. This feels like an extreme overreaction to what the Bengals put on tape against the Chargers yesterday in a game that, frankly, was a lot closer than 41-22 as the final suggests.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals came back in that game. They had a chance to kind of erase that deficit they built for themselves early. But, the Bengals defense, they're great. And Jimmy Garoppolo was just awful yesterday against the Seahawks. They just got swept by the worst Seattle team in the last 10 years, since Russell Wilson's been there. Yeah. Yep. I think Burrow's finger is a concern. I mean, everybody saw it, even on Red Zone, it was popping up that, his pinky finger was jammed. Drew Brees was talking on Sunday Night Football about how the pinky finger actually matters more than the ring finger because that's how you guide the football. And it looks like he was on his throwing hand. It looks like he put it back in place, but it was really nasty looking yesterday. So I guess that's kind of a concern for me, but I just think the Bengals are a better team, especially at home against this 49ers team. They don't know a lot about each other because it's AFC, NFC matchup. There's no divisional ties here. So I just see, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase having a really good day, Burrows being able to lead them to some touchdowns, good drives, and then the Bengals defense kind of leading the way in this game to, shut down Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers offense.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at this. And also, you mentioned the Bengals defense, and someone could say, well, they just gave up 41 points. It's like, yeah, they gave up 41 points, but first of all, 6 of those came from the defensive side of the ball for the Chargers. So we're down into the mid 30s, and they just hit a few really big pass plays. The Chargers did, and that's something the Chargers are going to be able to do too from time to time against basically any defense. Not exactly something you're very concerned with when you're going up against San Francisco's offense, especially without Deebo Samuel. George Kittle, he's a handful for any defense to handle, but I do think this is one where the Bengals should be bigger than 1.5-point favorites. Again, it feels like an overreaction to Bengals Chargers and not enough of a reaction to the fact that the 49ers are just this up and down team, and they really feel like a team that you take one guy away. Doesn't matter who it is. You take away Deebo Samuel, you take away George Kittle, you take away Eli Mitchell, right? First it was Raheem Mostert, then Eli Mitchell. You take any one guy out of that offense, and there is a significant trickle-down effect. We saw that yesterday against the Seahawks. I think there's good reason to believe Deebo Samuel misses another game, and I think they would be hard-pressed to win this one in Cincinnati without Deebo. So I like your pick, and I'm going to an AFC North team as well. Give me the Steelers plus 3.5 against the Vikings. This is Thursday Night Football this week, so it's a short week for both of these teams, but feels like the sort of field goal game. And another team in Minnesota, just like we talked about with San Francisco, they rely on a very small core of offensive players, and 2 of those guys are going to be out for this game. Dalvin Cook, not going to play with his shoulder chest injury, and now Adam Thielen with the high ankle sprain that he suffered in Week 13. He's not going to be ready for a quick turnaround on Thursday night either. And so, it's not as though Alexander Mattison is this just enormous downgrade from Dalvin Cook, but he's something of a downgrade. You take Adam Thielen out, you replace those targets with KJ Osborne, maybe a little bit more for Tyler Conklin. It's not woe is us total disaster situation for Minnesota, but it is an obvious downgrade. And so you make those 2 moves for a team that really does have to win on the offensive side of the ball. I think this game stays close. With the way the Steelers are playing, we've seen a couple of strong offensive performances from them a couple of weeks in a row. We know what this defense can do most weeks. I think this game stays close, 3.5. It's just a little bit too big of a number for me, DeWitt, and I know that this is a side that you're on as well.
Yeah, I think it's important to get the key number at 3.5 here. I wouldn't want to take it at plus 3. I think it's one thing, it's Kirk Cousins. Adam Thielen being out is a huge loss for him because Adam Thielen's kind of like a safety blanket. When he's looking for somebody in the red zone, he's looking for that conversion, 3rd and long, 3rd and 7. Adam Thielen's that guy, and he's not going to be there for him. And I think that's a huge hit. And the Vikings are really similar to the Ravens, and everybody was so into the Ravens on this going into this game yesterday. And the Steelers frustrated them. The Steelers defense frustrated them, and the Steelers deep. Watt made the huge play at the end of the game to kind of win the game for them there. But the Steelers play that type of football, and it's to be frustrating for the Vikings. The Steelers are a frustrating football team to play if you're the opposing team because they're going to control the ball, they're going to try to run the ball, and Big Ben's going to figure out on a drive or 2 how to put up the points. So I do like the Steelers at plus 3.5 here. Like I said, I wouldn't touch it if it goes to 3 for some reason. It just doesn't feel right to me. But I like the hook here. I think it'll move to plus 3 at some point today. I don't know when that'll be, but make sure you're line shopping. Make sure you get the best number on these games because it often turns out to be the difference between winning and losing on these games.
Yeah, easy to talk myself into this being a field goal game. The moment it goes down to plus 3, I have no interest whatsoever in the Steelers. And it's been an obvious year of regression for Ben Roethlisberger. But as we saw yesterday and as we saw against the Chargers a couple weeks ago, you've got guys like Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool out wide for you. You can still make some big things happen down the field. So this is not Ben Roethlisberger of years and years and years ago, but this is still a team that can hit some big plays down the field. Again, I think there's enough here that the Steelers keep this one close, keep it within 3. So that's why I'm on the Steelers plus 3.5. Get the number while you can. Get Andrew DeWitt while you can. DeWitt, good stuff, man. We're going to let you go on this episode of Best on the Board.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, NBA talk coming up in a second here. First, though, a message from our partners over at BetMGM, gambling partner of The Athletic and the presenting sponsor of Best on the Board. Right now, bet $10, win $200, plus get a free year-long subscription to The Athletic. Just go to betmgm.com/TABest to take advantage of this offer from the king of sportsbooks. Again, that is bet 10 to win 200. Any bet, whatever it is, your first bet, you'll do that. Bet 10, win 200, and get that free year-long subscription to The Athletic. Just go to betmgm.com/TABest to get this offer. It's a new customer offer for BetMGM. Bettors, terms and conditions apply. All right, NBA time on this episode of Best on the Board. Taz Melas from No Dunks joining us. Now, Taz, coming off a 2-0 week, man. How you feeling?
Oh, God. You just said it yourself, man. A 2-0 week. Feeling good. I feel like I should have had more of those weeks, although there's been some backdoor plays. But yeah, feeling really good coming into this week.
Yeah, it was a couple of props for you last week to refresh everyone's memory. Carl Anthony Towns blowing past the 21.5 point number that you were on. And then Donovan Mitchell also 24.5 was his number, puts up 30
Sorry
points.
about that Eric Gordon line that you had.
Oh, man, it
right
was, I felt good about it. I still felt good about it. And maybe it's a lesson to not get so cute, right? I'm out here playing Eric Gordon in a larger role than expected for Houston props. You're saying screw it. Give me Cat, give me Donovan Mitchell. Let them do what they do. So maybe a lesson to be learned in that. Let's just trust the stars to be stars rather than trying to bank on these secondary players. So the 2-0 bumps you up to 7-5 for the season. I am down at 2-5, unfortunately. So I'm going to try to pull a task here and get myself back on track. After the 2-0 on props, though, you're going back to teams. We're going back to just sides here for you this week. I'm going to stick in the prop world for my one play of the week. But let's start out with you, and let's start out with the hottest team in the NBA right now, Golden State Warriors, 15.5-point favorites tonight at home against the Orlando Magic. No funny business, excuse me, in this one?
Absolutely not. Yeah, I banked on Cat and Donovan Mitchell, the stars last week. I'm banking on a great team this week to bounce back and hammer the Magic because they did lose on Saturday night. The Warriors did. They lost to the San Antonio Spurs at home. Now, great teams do bounce back after a loss. So that's what I'm banking on here. And before that loss, the Warriors had won 11 in a row at home by double digits, an average of 20 points in those 11 games. That Spurs loss, I guess if you look back at it, kind of a schedule loss. They beat the Phoenix Suns, who were the hottest team in the NBA the night before. They had won 18 games in a row. The Warriors took care of business. And then Saturday, yeah, it was a dud. Curry hit the pregame shot from a pedestrian exit in the lower bowl pregame, and then he went 7 of 28 in the game. So I'm banking on him to bounce back. I'm banking on guys who are sort of getting back in the flow of things for the Warriors. Sometimes you can look at that roster and say, hey, where's the offense going to come from? Well, they've got a lot of offense from guys like Andrew Wiggins, who had an off night, Damian Lee, who's been struggling with his shot and an injury. But he was 6 of 12 in that Spurs game. So I feel like they're getting it together. And as much as I love the Orlando Magic and their youthfulness, they are one of the worst teams in the NBA. They're in the midst of a very long road trip, and they haven't won a road game since November 17th. And Golden State's not the spot they're going to get a win. So I just think things will go back to normal in Golden State tonight.
Yeah, this is I love the logic. Love the logic, absolutely. And I think I'm just going to have to tail you on this one for all of the reasons that you said. I'm going to move us over to the prop world with Cade Cunningham. Really going to line things up here, Tass. 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists is his total number here. I think he goes over that. And, part of this goes back to something you and I have talked about a little bit when we're looking especially at props, in that if you just add up his season averages for points, rebounds, and assists, you're sitting right on 25. This is now 3.5 above that number. That's a significant increase, right? I mean, that's big. I mean, it maybe doesn't sound like it's that huge. Oh, he hits a 3, gets an assist above his average, and boom, he's over the number. But that's a big in-game increase to be set as his number to get over as a prop. And so I just look at that and I say, this is being set at this number for a reason. And it feels almost as though we're being baited into taking the under because it's so significantly under his season averages. So that right there just makes me want to line up with where I think the odds makers are going and play the over. No Shea Gilgeous-Alexander for Oklahoma City. He seems to be the guy who would match up well, right? That same sort of size and length that Cade brings to the floor every single night. He's going to miss this game, still dealing with the after effects of a concussion. And so I look at the OKC side of things and really feel like they're going to be hard pressed to match up with Cade Cunningham. And this is in his rookie year, just a guy who we know is going to be able to put together nights like this when an advantageous matchup presents itself to him, and a guy who can have an off night with the assists, but end up grabbing 10 rebounds. A guy who can have an off night shooting the ball, but still grind his way to like a 12, 10, and 8 sort of night. And I like that. I like the versatility of his play, especially when I don't think there's anyone on the other side of the ball who can really match up with him. So that's why I'm going Cade here. Really like him, like this spot for him, like this spot against an OKC team that I just don't really think can slow him down all that effectively. So Cade Cunningham for me goes over this mark.
Yeah, and he's started the season slow. He was injured, and when he was involved in his first few games, he was absolutely taking it slow. So I think the line makers are just seeing where he is right now. I think they're understanding that Cade is coming on. He is playing really, really well, and that number 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I mean, it's a good line, and I think you're bang on in that it's set high because Cade's playing better than his season averages. He's strictly just come along slowly, and now he's starting to come into that rookie of the year race. So it's a good play, I do believe. The OKC. That debacle going on there. Yeah, this was our game of the night on no dunks as well. 3 of the 4 of us picked Detroit, sort of for the reasons you're saying. OKC is just not in a good matchup spot here. They don't have their best player, and they bounce back after a laughable loss against the Grizzlies the other day. TBD.
Yeah, TBD, exactly, and I don't think they do. Something else I would think about with this, if you're considering Cade Cunningham at this mark, plus 500 for him to get a double-double. So you can get 5-1 on your money if you're interested in taking a little bit of a shot on that as well. Let's get one more pick in here, Tass. We got Cavs and Bucks getting together for a game today in Milwaukee. You like the Cavs side of this, plus 6.5 on the road here. Let's hear the argument for it.
Yeah, I'm a huge Cavs fan. I'll start with that. But this Cavs team plays everyone close. They haven't lost a game by 7 or more in nearly 3 weeks, and that's when they were really banged up. They were a totally different team then. This Cavs team, it's a playoff team. Their point differential is plus 2.6. Now, they did play yesterday. It was a 1-point loss against the Utah Jazz, a really good team. It was an afternoon game, though, so they had time to get on the plane, a quick jaunt from Cleveland to Milwaukee. So I don't think that will be a factor, really. And you talk about matchups there in Detroit. Rudy Gobert, the center for Utah yesterday, was a beast against the Cavs front line. And that's usually where the Cavs have an advantage. They play 3 7-footers, and Jared Allen is usually a big problem for the other team's center. And he'll get back to that today against Milwaukee. He's playing Bobby Portis. That's where the Cavs have their advantage. And I think they'll feel like they're back to normal. And they're getting back on the road. This is where they play their best basketball. It's really surprising, actually. They're 8-4 on the road, 5-7 at home. So before that 1-point loss in Cleveland, they had won 3 straight on the road: Dallas, Miami, and Washington. I feel good about this one. Now, Giannis Antetokounmpo, also a game-time decision. He's questionable right now. He's missed the last 2 games with a calf injury. That doesn't really stop the Milwaukee Bucks. They're a really good team. So will he come back here on his 27th birthday tonight? Maybe yes, maybe no, but it doesn't really affect my line of thinking in this game. Again, the Cavs are just too good for this plus 6.5-point line. Like the line makers, I think, are catching up with Cade Cunningham. I don't think they're really caught up with the Cavs side of things. People just look at the Cavs and think, well, this team has lost the most NBA games over the past 3 seasons combined. That's understandable. You don't give the Cavs a lot of respect, but they are playing really good basketball, and I do expect them to extend that here in Milwaukee. Plus, we just had a great article on The Athletic on Ricky Rubio and that he didn't want to join the Cavs, and then he joined them. Now he's having one of his best seasons by Joe Varden and Kelsey Russo. So, heck, they're a little athletic plug there. But I'm just a Cavs fan, and I do believe this line is just a little too juicy, even against a good Milwaukee team.
Let me ask you this. I actually saw you tweet out a happy birthday message to Giannis and thanking him for promoting your yogurt brand back in 2014. What was up with that? I'm new to the story.
Well, yeah, not much of a story. This won't take long. I had the opportunity to interview Giannis in 2014. So we made up a yogurt brand called Tassos, my full name, Greek yogurt brand. And he was a rook in the league, and he was willing to do that dumb thing that we asked him to do in an interview. And I've had a love-hate relationship with him. I mean, all love for me, but in 2015, this was 2 years into his career. He had just averaged like 12 and a half points in the league, and people were anointing him the next one. And I called him when we were asked our preview question of who's an overrated player in the league. I called Giannis Antetokounmpo an overrated player, and and I still defend it. Back then, people were again putting him in the Hall of Fame at that point, and then he used it as motivation. There's other videos where he accepted an award on behalf of us, the Most Improved Player award, and he gave me a little kudos for giving him a little motivation. So we've got a relationship going back and forth. Unfortunately, my yogurt brand didn't take off, but Giannis Antetokounmpo's career did take off. So 27 for him. Does he play tonight? I don't know. I don't know. He's missed 2 games, and again, this Cavs team is huge up front. So it would obviously benefit Milwaukee to have him there, but I don't know. I think they'll fight on the road. That 6.5 points is big.
It's definitely big for a team, as you mentioned. I mean, the trends. When you play as often close of a game as Cleveland has this season, a team that just really, regardless of opponent, has not been blown out all that often. That should give you a lot of confidence when you're catching 6.5, regardless of venue, regardless of opponent. So Cavaliers plus 6.5 in Milwaukee, wrapping things up for us on this episode of Best on the Board. We thank you all for joining us for Best on the Board. For Andrew DeWitt, Tess Melas, I am Michael Beller. Thanks for being with us on this Monday episode. Good luck, and as always, happy betting. Talk